Hello everyone, and welcome to another amazing part of What If Deku Ran an Orphanage? This amazing story was written by Kyodon. Please support them. Don't forget to like, sub, and leave a comment. Now let's dive in. Alright Kyoku, are you ready? Rin asked, now hosting Kyoku in his office. Yes sir. Kyoku nodded before closing her eyes. Rin sighed. Hopefully, this will go better than yesterday. Interesting, Kyoku said as she entered the velvet room and immediately started looking around. This is a very cozy place. Maybe we could have something like it at the house. Oh, planning on ripping me off, huh? Rin asked teasingly. Well, I don't think we have to worry about her putting us out of business. Our cafe serves a unique purpose after all, Lavinza said in an amused tone before taking out a glass of milk. Here you are, to soothe your soul. Kyoku sniffed the glass before a smile spread across her face. Oh, almond milk. My favorite. She quickly started drinking the milk, gulping down with gusto, until the glass was empty. Thank you very much, Kyoku said, giving her a pilot bow. You are more than welcome, Lavinza said. All right, let's do some stretches and enter the palace, Rin said. Yes, sir. Kyoku nodded. After heading through the door, they found themselves transported to the inside of an amusement park. Around them were all sorts of rides, food stalls, games, and more, as well as shadows, taking the form of families with no faces, walking all around them, enjoying themselves. In front of them was a stairway, leading to an underground entrance. On the door to that entrance, it said Omoid Jail. Kyoku hissed as she saw the name on the sign. Omoid. Omoid. Rin repeated as he tried to place where he heard that name before. Eventually, it came to him. Wasn't that your old last name before you were adopted by Midoriya? Yes, Kyoku growled, saying it as if admitting that caused her pain. And I hope to never see or hear that name again. Are you going to be okay? Rin asked her, taking a good look at her to see if she was ready for this. I'll be fine, sir, Kyoku said, her tone livid and her eyes focused on the door. Let's just do this already. With that, Kyoku walked down the steps towards the door, with Rin following behind her. She kicked the door open, revealing a dingy hallway, lit by flickering light bulbs. The two walked down the hallway, looking out for threats along the way. All the while they could hear the sounds of the people above them enjoying themselves. Their laughter echoed throughout the hall, causing Kyoku to grow more and more tense, clenching her teeth harder as they went. Breathe, Rin reminded her. Kyoku started deep breathing aggressively, sounding like a bull before they were about to charge. They arrived at the end of the hallway, into an entry and reception hall, with a shadow behind the desk. That shadow was that of a very generic-looking child, with an extremely smug expression, wearing a prison guard uniform. Upon seeing them, the guard smashed a button, and alarms went off. Suddenly from the doors, more kid guards came in, bit batons. Oh, what are you doing out? Get back in your cell, shouted one of the guards. Mistakes like you have to be locked up, said another guard. Kyoku, get ready. Rin told her to pull out his weapons. Focus your dash. Loki, Kyoku said as she stared at the shadows with hate-filled eyes. Red fire exploded from her body, before moving behind her and taking form as her persona. What formed behind her was humanoid, but very clearly inhuman. Their entire body is covered in black and white stripes like a zebra, including the two horns atop its head. The only parts not covered in those stripes were its black and red hair. Lastly, it was holding a large red great sword that almost looked like it could be made of blood. Kyoku opened her hand, and a spiked club appeared in her palms. Oh, Rin said, shocked by this sudden development. Yaha! Kyoku let out a battle cry before leaping at the shadows. Kyoku slammed her club down on one of the shadows, splattering it across the ground. Loki appeared in front of her and slashed his sword through 3 more shadows, cutting them in half. Kyawawawawiya. Loki let out a scream, and red mist flew out of his mouth, covering the rest of the shadows. Ah! Suddenly, all the shadows screamed as their eyes turned red, and they quickly started flailing around, beating each other with their weapons, tearing each other apart. And as they went mad and killed each other, Kyoku just kept destroying them with her club, a sadistic, gleeful grin spreading across her face. Ha 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 ha. Ah ha ha. Die, die. 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 Rin could only watch as Kyoku and her persona tore through the shadows like tissue paper. It looks like her persona can make shadows go berserk, corrupting them in a way. That's pretty useful, but I wonder what effect that's going to have on her. This is her mind after all. After Kyoku made quick work of the shadows, the way was clear. Kyoku took a deep breath, taking in the afterglow of the battle. I wish I could do this in real life. You wish you could tear people apart with a club and drive them insane? Rin asked, wondering if maybe they should leave. Kyoku's eyes widened as she realized what she just implied. That's not what I meant. I just wish I could fight like my siblings in real life. Right? Well, it looks like you awakened your persona pretty easily. Still, be careful with that ability it has. We're inside your mind, so who knows what'll happen if you keep using that. Rin warned. Kyoku pouted briefly before sighing. Yes, sir. Going deeper into the prison, the two found themselves in a large cell block filled with empty cells. And standing there waiting for them was another guard. This one a teenager with bright pink hair, holding a whip. My, did the mistake come to get tortured all on her own? The shadow cackled. I hope you don't think that'll make me go easy on you, little sis. I'm guessing this is your older sister, Rin said, recalling Kyoku's file. Woroku, Kyoku hissed, the grip on her club tightening. I'm going to tear you apart. Huh. Kyoku launched herself at the shadow, the club held high. Wait, Rin called out. The shadow swiped her whip forward with alarming speed, slamming it into Kyoku, who went flying into a wall as a result. Grrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr focusing on her opponent. Loki appeared in front of her and slammed and slashed his sword down towards her, sending a red energy slash towards her that tore up the ground as it traveled. Woroku jumped to the left to avoid the attack, only for Rin's grappling hook to wrap around her neck before slamming her into a wall. "Ack, don't fuck with me," Woroka shouted as she ripped the wire off her neck before sending her whip out towards Rin. Rin ducked under the whip and pulled out his pistol, shooting Woroku in the face. The bullets seemed to only annoy Woroku. Focusing her attention on Rin, she unleashed a flurry of whip strikes at him. Rin dodged most of them, but one swipe smacked him in the face and made him faceplant into the metal bars of a cell. Woroka got ready to attack him again when Kyoku came down from above and slammed her club down on her head. Then Loki appeared in front of her and slashed at her, creating a massive wound across her stomach and chest. "Ack, you little shit," Woroka hissed as she spun her whip around, hitting Loki and Kyoku, sending them away from her. Woroku turned to Kyoku, who had fallen on her behind as a result of the attack, and got ready to initiate another attack when she was suddenly hit in the back by dark energy from Arsene, making her stumble forward and drop her whip. Rin sent out his grappling hook, wrapping it around her leg and tripping her. Now, Arsene shot out a big blast of dark energy, and on the other side, Loki sent out a big blade beam. Both attacks slammed into Woroku at the same, exploding upon Collison, leaving a cloud of smoke and dust. When the smoke died down, Woroku could be seen missing a good amount of her body, with what remained of her fading away. "Damn it, can't believe I lost to you," Woroku groaned as she slowly vanished. Then she smirked. "Still, don't think you're off scot-free, you brat. Even when I'm gone, I'll still be here. With you. That fake family can't do a thing, not when you know you belong here. Ah ha ha." And with that, she faded into nothing. Kyoko walked up to the spot where Woroku had been and spat on it. "Good riddance." "You good?" Rin asked her, dusting himself off. Kyoko nodded, but as soon as she tried to move, she winced a bit. Rin sighed. "All right, we're done for today." "Wait, no," Kyoko said, before coughing, taking a moment to recompose her. "I mean, sir, I can keep going. I'm fine. If you get any more banged up, then your father will kill me. We're leaving," Rin said sternly as he turned the other way. "Come on." Kyoko pouted but obediently followed anyway. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Welcome to the Velvet Room, Lavinza said, quickly pulling out a drink. Cola. Heck yeah, Ken said as he quickly gulped down the soda, and once he was done, he let out a loud burp. Nice. Ruji. He reminds me of Ruji. Lavinza said after thinking about it for a moment. Nah, can only acts dumb. He's actually quite bright when he wants to be, Rin said. Not sure if that was an insult or not, Ken said, giving Rin a suspicion-filled glare. And who's Ruji? A man with a heart of gold, a mouth like a loudspeaker, and about 2 brain cells, Rin said fondly. Anyway, let's get ready for the palace, shall we? Whoa, Ken said again, as they arrived at the palace. They'd ended up at the entrance to another prison. In front of them was a path lined with 2 large black walls, with barred-up windows on them. The floor was bright green, with cricket patterns on them. Surrounding the whole prison complex were massive black walls, and above them was what looked like glass, with a familiar hourglass symbol in the sky, which was bright green. Are we inside the Omnitrix? Ken asked, taking a good look around. Seems like it. Maybe your cognition thinks that a part of you is trapped inside the Omnitrix, Rin said, and I think we both know what part that is. Ken scowled, looking down at the Omnitrix on his wrist. Yeah, let's go meet him. With that, the two walked forward into the prison. The two eventually made their way to an open area with the Omnitrix symbol on the ground. In front of them was a massive black gate, also with the Omnitrix symbol on it. And in front of that gate was Igai. Igai, Ken questioned as they approached. It's a shadow, taking the form of one of your transformations, Rin explained. And if I had to guess, he's the one guarding this gate. Turn back now, Ken, Igai told them, all his eyes focusing on Ken. It's for your own good. Ken hesitated for a moment, before shaking his head and giving Igai a determined look. Let us pass. I need to whop my own ass. If that's what you want, then I will be your opponent, Igai said, taking a battle-ready position. Don't say I didn't warn you. Brrrr. Igai shot out 2 lasers at them, and both of them barely managed to jump to the side and dodge in time. It's hero time, Ken said, pressing the button on his Omnitrix, causing the dial to pop up. But everything was blank. All of his transformations were gone. Huh, Ken cried out in confusion. Brrrr. Ag. Igai hit Ken with a laser that froze everything but his head. Don't expect any of us to help you here. This is all for your own good. Igai shouted. For his own good? Locking parts of yourself away never helps anyone. Rin argued, dodging another laser, before firing at Igai with his gun. The bullet slammed into Igai's arm, causing him to flinch for a second, before responding by growing more eyes on his chest and shooting more lasers at Rin. Rin started running, flipping and dodging the attack shot out at him. The more you repress something, the stronger it becomes. You can't fix a problem by ignoring it. I think you should shut up, Igai shouted as he continued attacking. You really think that ugly thing should ever be released? So it can wreak havoc and ruin everything it touches. It doesn't have to ruin everything, Rin argued as he kept dodging. You don't always have to live with that fear, that hatred for a part of yourself. Things can be better. By mastering yourself, conquering your fears, you can live a better life. But that can only happen when you face your flaws head-on. Arsene appeared behind Rin and shot out dark energy at Igai. The energy slammed into his chest and sent him skidding back. Hiding from your problems doesn't make them go away. Rin looked over at Ken. Ken, do you want to get better? To finally put your past behind you? Yes, Ken shouted as she started trying to break free of the ice. Crack. You're right. I need to face this, Ken said as the ice started to crack. Which means I need to stop being such a coward. Proteus. Suddenly, Ken burst into green flames as the ice shattered. The flames took from behind him into Ken's new persona. Its top half was that of a man, bare muscular chest, with long green hair that connected to his green beard. But its lower half was a big mix of creatures. Horse legs, with a serpent tail, which became a lion tail at the end. Whoa, it's kind of weird looking, Ken said, taking a good look at his persona. Brrrr. Igai shot out another laser at Ken, but Proteus went in front of him before turning into a wall, blocking the beams. Cool, Ken said in awe, before getting a wicked smirk on his face. Let's kick some butt. Proteus then turned into a huge dragon and unleashed a wave of fire onto Igai. Aye, that's hot. Igai shouted as he was swallowed by the flames, his body burning up. He combined all the eyes together into one big eye and shot out a huge laser at Proteus that pierced through the fire. I don't think so, Ken shouted, as Proteus stopped its attack and turned into a mirror, reflecting the laser, causing it to slam into Igai, sending him flying into a wall. Let's finish him, Rin shouted. Arsene appeared and shot a massive black energy mass at Igai. Let's do it, Proteus, Ken shouted, as Proteus turned into a cannon and fired a cannonball at Igai. Kaboom! Both attacks landed, exploding on impact and shaking the entire area. When the explosion died down, Igai remained, heavily injured and with swirls in all of his eyes. Ugh, hi! He groaned as he fell to his knees. Had enough, Ken shouted out, giving his transformation a stern look. I'm getting through, no matter what. For me, and for my sister. She shouldn't have to worry about this either. So for both our sakes, get out of my way. I see, Igai said, and then his body slowly started fading away. So be it. I hope you know what you're doing. Ken smirked. Who do you think you're talking to? Of course I don't. But I'll figure it out. Probably. All of Igai's eyes rolled, and then he was gone. Swoom. Suddenly, the Omnitrix symbol on the door lit up. I think that means we can progress, Rin said. The gate should open, now that we've defeated the gatekeeper. Bump ba dump. Huh. Ken looked down at his Omnitrix and found that Igai's silhouette had returned. Whoa. I got Igai back. Guess we convinced him to help us get through. All right. Let's call it a day, Rin said. What? Why? I can keep going. Ken argued. Sorry to say, but I'm one who's a bit tired, Rin said, rubbing his eyes. I've been going in and out of palaces for the past 2 days, and it's starting to get to me. Sorry. Oh, it's fine. Ken sighed in disappointment. Guess that makes sense. Don't want you ending up like Izuku. Thanks. Rin nodded, as the two of them turned back and walked towards the exit. By the way, what's a Proteus? Ken asked. Greek god of shape-shifting, Rin explained. There was a god for that. Ken asked, curiously. There was a Greek god of poop. They had a god for everything. Rin chuckled. Heh, poop. Ken laughed. Are you sure about this, Fuku? Ochiko asked. Ochiko had been called to Fuku's room because Fuku had a request, but never in 100 years could she have guessed what that request was. Fuku hesitated for a moment before nodding. I want to go to the mall. Just for a few hours. Everyone else can go outside, but I'm still afraid. But I want to get over it, so. I get it. But do you really want to start off with the mall? Ochiko asked, a bit unsure about the idea. There's going to be a lot of people there. I think I can do it. If it's just a couple hours. Those pass super fast. Fuku said, sounding like she was trying to convince herself. And so long as you guys are with me, I should be safe. Ochiko looked unsure, but instead of trying to convince her otherwise, she simply kneeled down and hugged her. Slowly enough so Fuku could understand what she was doing, she wrapped her arms around her. I'm okay with doing this, but I want you to understand that you don't need to force yourself for our sake. We love you, just the way you are. All this is for you. So if you're uncomfortable, just tell me, and we'll stop the whole thing whenever you want. Thank you, Fuku said as she hugged Ochiko back. Ochiko chose a day when the cloud would be less crowded. Unfortunately, Izuku couldn't join because he had to deal with some of the other kids, but Ochiko did manage to get Kiba, Kei, Kano, Kuki, Hinata, and Himiko. The 6 of them stood at the center of the mall, the children looking around. Wow, so this is a mall. Himiko gasped as she rode on Ochiko's shoulders. Look at all this stuff. You could survive here for years in a zombie apocalypse. Why is that your first thought? Fuku asked fearfully as she held tightly onto Ochiko's hand. 'Cause she's weird, Kuki said, holding onto Ochiko's other hand. Ever since Ochiko had convinced Izuku to remove his quirk, he'd been quite attached to her. So this is what it feels like to be a mom with too many kids. Ochiko chuckled to herself as she watched people stare at her and the 5 kids, 3 of which were attached to her. All right, kids, what should we do first? Ochiko asked. Fuku, do you have any place you really want to go? Fuku looked around, trying to focus on the shops and not the people. It's so big. I want to check out of the clothing store. Kano jumped in. I want to see if anything can give me a creative spark. Oh, how come? I want to see if they have anything cute. Himiko said as she fell back off of Achiko's shoulders, flipped in midair, landing on her feet, before the two ran off. Wait up too, Achiko said, with her and the other kids following behind them. Interesting, Kano said as she looked around at the clothes in the store, flying up to get a closer look. Miss, please don't fly in the store, said one of the employees. Then one of the other employees, a manager, rushed in, looking nervous. No, please do as you wish. Fly around if you need to. Don't mind us. But ma'am dash, the other employee didn't get a chance to finish as the manager pulled them over to the side. These are Midoriyas, you idiot. Do you know what they could do to us? Or the entire store? Or our parent companies? The manager hissed. Just let them do whatever they want. They can pay for it later. The manager turned around and faced them with a nervous smile on her face. So sorry about that. If you need help, just ask. Achiko sighed and was about to reassure them that it was okay. But Kiba spoke up first. Do you have these in red? Kiba asked, holding up a purple scarf. I want to see if Shiruku can make a better version later. I'll check the back, the manager said, running to the back room. Kano flew over to Kuki, who was standing next to Achiko, grabbed him, and flew him over to the side. Huh, what are you doing? Kuki asked as he was dropped over by the dressing rooms. We are going to find your style, Kano said, before looking over Kuki with disgust, staring at his plain white shirt and jeans. Because this is unacceptable. How do you even leave the house like that? Listen, we are siblings now, and I will not allow any of my siblings to go around so poorly dressed. So we are going to look at a bunch of outfits, and you tell me which ones you like most. No. Kuki crossed his arms and gave Kano the stink eye. I don't want to. And you can't make me. Ugh, come on. Are you really happy wearing those clothes? Kano asked with a pout. Not really. Kuki looked down at his clothes skeptically before looking up at Kano's clothes. Green dress pants with a fancy puffy red shirt. Despite the lack of overt femininity and its simplicity, they did look good on her. But they're just clothes. Kano rolled her eyes. Clothes aren't just something we wear. They're parts of our personality. Tell me, what do you think of me when you see my clothes? That you're rich. Kuki answered, still not seeing where this was going. Exactly. I look fancy. Cool. Like I'm better than everyone else. Which is exactly what I want people to think. Kano said proudly. This outfit in particular should tell people that even when I just throw something on, I'm still fabulous. That's why I'm not wearing makeup. But back to my point. We need an outfit for you that tells the world who you are and makes you feel happy when you wear it. Doesn't that sound fun? Fine. Kuki relented. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX with a fist on it, and text above it that said, "Here is how many hex I give." Why does a store sell a child-sized shirt like that? Ochiko wondered as she looked at the two from a distance. How is it? Kano asked, looking over Kuki. It's fine. Kuki looked in the mirror at himself. Guess it's better than my old clothes. Not good enough. Kano sighed. The next outfit was a little more fancy. With black dress pants, a white dress shirt, a black vest, and black dress shoes. And Kuki did not look happy wearing it. I hate this. I hate this so much. Kuki growled as he pulled at the collar. Why is it so uncomfortable? And I look like a dork. You know this does not work at all. Kano agreed with a scowl. Completely goes against your vibe. Next. Next was another more casual outfit, but with a bit more effort put in. Once again he was wearing jeans, but now not ripped and a darker shade. And now he wore a dark tank top and a black jacket. All right, way better than the last one, Kuki said, looking at himself again in the mirror. But it feels the same as the first one. Kano took a good look at him. I noticed you really like the black clothes. Whenever I give you a choice, you always choose black. I guess I like black. Kuki shrugged as he looked at himself. I don't think color would look good on me. Kano looked around the clothing racks, before flying over, grabbing a few more clothes and bringing them back. Here. Kuki looked back at the clothes and raised an eyebrow, as he saw Kano had picked up a dress. Aren't those girls' clothes? Yup. Try it on, Kano said, handing them over to Kuki, who looked hesitant and confused. What? Do you think boys can't wear girls' clothes? Why not? Because people say it's weird? Why do we have to listen to them? Kuki thought about it. Why can't I wear girls' clothes? Yeah, she's right. I can wear whatever I want. He took the clothes and closed the door to the dressing room. Huh. They feel soft. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX basic gothic Lolita outfit. Mostly black with some white accents and frills. Long that poofed at the end. She'd also given him some black stockings and a pair of black and white boots. I thought I'd look weird. Kuki thought as he focused on his face. His long, shoulder-length black hair actually helped him out here, really helping him sell the look, especially with one of his eyes covered by his hair. I look kinda cool in this. Are you done yet? Kano asked impatiently on the other side of the door. Kuki snapped out of it. Oh, sorry. He opened the door, revealing himself to Kuki. It looks good at least. But what do you think? Kano asked him. I like it. It looks cool, and it's super comfy. Kuki said, getting his thoughts together. It's toasty but not too hot. I think I like skirts better than pants. All right, we found your style. Kano cheered as she flew down and took a closer look. We can make improvements back at home. Actually, we can make some improvements right now. To the salon. What? Kuki didn't get a chance to argue, as Kano picked him up and flew out of the store. Hey, wait. Kano, wait. You need to pay for those. Ochiko called out, but Kano had already flown away. And she's gone. Sorry, let me pay for those immediately. Thank you, ma'am. The manager said. Looks like those two get along. I was worried, but now they're thick as sleeves. K-punt. Baitum Tish. Ahaha. Himiko played a sound effect on her phone, snickering at the pun. Do you want anything, Hinata? Kiba asked as they walked over to Ochiko. No. Lady Shiruku can make far better apparel, Hinata said, shaking her head, before looking down at her own outfit. It looked like she was trying a butler cosplay, white gloves included. But she was proud of it. After all, what better clothes to serve Lady Kiba in? Fuku, we're paying, Ochiko called out. Fuku burst out from her hiding place behind a pile of coats. Finally, so where do you guys want to go next? Ochiko asked. I know we have to stop at the salon to pay for whatever Kano is doing, but I doubt you kids just want to wait around there. How about a movie? Kei suggested. That sounds good. Himiko agreed. I guess that sounds okay. Fuku said, looking around at all the people staring at them and gulping. At least everyone will be looking at something other than us. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX But as they made their way there, they suddenly heard something behind them. They stopped and looked behind them, seeing some of the Midoriya Foundation troops they had protecting them had tackled some lady to the ground. "Let me go! Let me go!" The woman struggled, before looking back at Ochako and the kids, her eyes landing on Himiko. It's her. She dashed. Giza came in and covered her mouth. "That's enough. My apologies. It's fine. Just be gentle with her," Ochako said, wincing as she quickly figured out what happened. She threw the woman a pitying look. "Do I know her?" Himiko asked, looking at her curiously, thankfully without a hint of recognition in her eyes. Ochako tried to figure out what to tell her. Obviously, she couldn't say. "You probably murdered someone she loved, so she had to figure something out. She probably just confused you for someone else. Don't worry about it." Himiko was not convinced. While Himiko could seem aloof/crazy at times, she was dangerously intelligent. It's how her future/past self survived as a villain for so long. Such a half-hearted excuse would never fool her. And so Ochako did the only thing that she could. "Well, let's get to the theater, kids. Don't want to miss the good movies," Ochako said as she grabbed all the kids and started moving away. And as they got farther away, Himiko stared into the hate-filled eyes of the woman, who was staring right back at her. Fuku found that the theater was a much-needed breath of fresh air for her on this trip. The theater was nice and dark, easy to sink into her chair and vanish. Plus, everyone was looking at the screen anyway. Plus, she got some nice popcorn and fruit punch. Actually, maybe she had too much fruit punch. Suddenly it hit her. "Bathroom. I need to go to the bathroom." Fuku looked at Ochako, who was sitting next to her, and was about to ask her to head with her to the bathroom when a thought occurred to her. I don't want to bother her in the middle of the movie. And maybe I could just go by myself. But wait, What if someone scary comes and tries to kill me? Wait, there are a bunch of guards around. And Achiko's danger sense will go off if someone tries anything. Maybe I could do it. After a few more seconds of deciding, Fuku hardened her resolve and jumped out of her seat before sneaking out. Ah! Fuku gave a sigh of relief as she finished relieving her bladder. Thankfully, she'd made it to the bathroom without even seeing anyone else. Her running as fast as she could might have helped with that. As Fuku prepared to get off the toilet and get out of the stall, suddenly she heard footsteps and two voices entering the bathroom. Male voices. Yeah, and so she said, I'm not sensitive enough. Seriously, what's up with her? I'm plenty sensitive. Dude, didn't you skip your own sister's wedding for a video game release? Guys, what are guys doing in here? No. Are these perverts? Oh no, I've been trapped by perverts. Fuku screamed internally as her body froze in fear. She could feel her quirk creeping in. The fear gas inside of her was trying to release, and she quickly started holding it back. Even perverts didn't deserve fear gas. What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? Fuku wondered, trying her best to figure out a way to escape, closing her eyes as she tried to do that and holding back her quirk. Oh, I wish I didn't leave Ms. Achiko behind. Snap. What the Fuku? Said Achiko's voice. Huh. Fuku opened her eyes and found that she was in a completely different location. Now she was in front of a theater she had just left, on top of Achiko's shoulders. Achiko, I'm saved. Fuku nearly felt like crying tears of joy, and she hugged Achiko's head. Fuku, what happened? Are you okay? Achiko took Fuku off her shoulders and held the girl in front of her, looking over her for wounds. I noticed you weren't sitting next to me anymore, so I went to go look for you. What happened? I tried to use the bathroom by myself, but there were perverts, and I was trapped, and I thought I was gonna die. Fuku sobbed, tears now actually flowing from her eyes. I'm sorry. Oh, Fuku. Achiko hugged the girl tightly. I'm so sorry. Tell me where those perverts are, and I'll dash. Please don't be hasty, said a voice behind them. Achiko and Fuku looked and saw a young brown-haired child in a blue jacket standing behind them with her eyes closed. Howdy, the child said, giving them a little wave. Sorry for butting in, but those guys weren't perverts. You were just in the men's bathroom. I want to die, Fuku muttered as her face turned red with embarrassment and shame. How did you know that? Achiko asked, a little suspicious of this strange situation. I was the one who got her out of there, and pulled up her skirt. The child explained. My quirk lets me detect and grant the wishes of people nearby. I saw you were in trouble, so I helped you out. Oh, thank you so much, Fuku said, giving her a grateful bow. Thank you, you seriously helped us out, Achiko added. No problem, they said with a smile, giving them a thumbs up. By the way, my name is Furasukuyum, but you can just call me Frisk. Do you want to be friends? Well, you did save me. Fuku considered it. On the one hand, she owed this person a debt, but on the other hand, she was still pretty scared of strangers. Snap. Fuku felt a wave of bravery and duty fill her. Okay, do you want to finish watching a movie with me? I'd love to, Frisk grinned. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX as they exited the movie theater. Right? I'm so happy they turned that arc into a movie. It was so pretty. Fuku said excitedly. Yeah, I was worried they wouldn't adapt this right. But it's even better than the manga. Frisk added. You read that manga too? Fuku gasped, looking at Frisk in amazement. Frisk nodded. I have a friend who's super into anime and manga, and they got me into it. And I was hooked. I don't understand why more people don't talk about it. I know, right? Fuku exclaimed. It's too underrated. It's a crime. Well, it looks like you two are getting along well. Ochako smiled before her eyes widened as she realized something. Wait, Frisk, where are your parents? They must be so worried about you. At home. Don't worry, they know where I am. Frisk said, pulling out a phone and revealing they texted their parents. Oh, thank goodness. Ochako breathed a sigh of relief. Say, apologies, but I can't quite tell your gender. Kiba brought up as they looked at them. I'm whatever you want me to be, Frisk answered, giving Kiba a wink. How one can wink with their eyes closed is a mystery, but they did it anyway. Kiba just looked even more confused, and Hinata pouted heavily but stayed silent. Why do you have your eyes closed? Himiko asked, waving her hand in front of them. Are you blind? Nope. I just had to keep them closed because people kept getting lost in them. Frisk teased. Oh, so your eyes do bad things to people too? Kay asked. Pretty sure that was a joke, Kay. Ochiko laughed, finding this whole thing really cute. What a mysterious person, Kiba noted, taking a good look at Frisk before smiling. I approve. Frisk gave them a thumbs up. I'm glad my charms aren't lost on you. We're back. Kano and Kuki returned, with Kuki having some noticeable differences, namely the black makeup they were wearing and the hair extensions, making them look full of goth. How do I look, Mom? Kuki asked Ochiko, looking at her with an excited yet nervous look, waiting anxiously to get her reaction. Cool. Really cool. Well done, you two. Ochiko said eagerly. She really wanted to say that he looked adorable, but that's likely not what he wanted to hear. Kuki gave a triumphant look of superiority. I feel like my aesthetic is being crept into here, Kiba said before shaking her head. Actually, I'm more of a red girl, so I guess it's fine. No matter what, Lady Kiba, you will always be the most beautiful, Hinata reassured her. Now who is this stranger? Kano asked as they noticed Frisk, taking a good look over them. Interesting. Like what you see. Frisk teased. Name's Furisuku. Call me Frisk. I'm a friend. Cozy. Well, if you're a friend of my siblings, you're a friend of mine. Don't embarrass me. Kano warned. Yes, ma'am, Frisk said, giving a mock salute. Well, I think it's time we head home, Ochiko said. Fuku had already been through quite a bit, and judging by the relief on her face when she said that, yeah, it was time to end this. Well, boo. Frisk pouted. Sorry, Fuku said sadly. It's fine. Just make sure to invite me over sometime, okay? Frisk said happily. Snap. Okay. I promise, Fuku said with a bit of determination. Furisukuyum. Quirk, hopes and dreams. Allows the user to detect desires and grant their wishes. This can include others, as well as themselves. Activated via snap of the fingers. Wishes require a certain amount of power to be granted. The amount of power needed depends on the wish. The power used for these wishes is human will. Fuku looked at her room fearfully. It was an absolute mess. Stuffed animals strewn across the ground, manuscripts everywhere, stacks of drawings everywhere. And let's not forget the garbage can overflowing with energy drinks and snacks. How did I let this get so bad? Fuku shouted as she brought her hands to the sides of her head, almost pulling out her hair from the stress. Oh, I know how. I was too busy working all week, so I forgot to clean. Normally, she wouldn't be too stressed out about this. But today was different. Today, Frisk was coming over, and they could not see their room in this state. Okay, I have to clean all of this up fast, Fuku thought as she looked at everything. Knock, knock, knock. Howdy, Frisk said from the other side of the door. Oh no, Fuku screamed internally as she looked at her door fearfully. They're already here? What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? Snap. Did I come too early? I can explore a bit until you're ready, Frisk offered. Snap. You Yeah, sorry, Fuku said apologetically. It's fine. A lady needs time to get ready, Frisk said teasily. Just shoot me a text when you're done. See you in a bit. Fuku breathed a sigh of relief before turning around. Did the room get cleaner? XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX room, playing Superhero Bash. And their opponent? Oh my. It's like she's not human. Inu said as she struggled to coordinate with her sisters to try and take Amai down. But Amai reacted perfectly, separating them with grabs and strong knockback attacks before taking them down. Do you think 3 ants could defeat the sun? Amai laughed. Get wrecked, losers. Game. Ugh hi. The sisters groaned as they lost again. GG. Easy. Amai gloated as she gave the girls a smug look. Do you need to use that obnoxious gamer talk? G sighed, giving Amai an irritated look. Sorry. The gamer in me is too strong. Amai apologized. I wonder if your personality shifts have something to do with your ability? G theorized. Oh, that looks fun. Frisk walked into the room, revealing themselves. Howdy. Oh, you're Fuku's new friend. G recognized. Yup. Hey, do you mind letting me play? Frisk asked, jumping onto the couch. I'm pretty good at games if I do say so myself. Sure, why not? Yaba shrugged, handing her a controller. You're gonna lose, though. It's not about winning. It's about fun. Frisk said. I'm glad you understand that. It'll make eating dirt much easier. Amai taunted as she started the game. The two played for a little while. Amai was dominant as usual, but Frisk wasn't faring too poorly. Wow, you're almost half decent, Amai said as she leaned forward a bit, putting in a bit of effort. Yeah, and you're really good, Frisk said as they fought for their life. Are you one of those professional gamers? Yup, glad you can tell. You've got some good talent. Amai praised before her grin turned vicious. But it's not enough. And with that, Amai combined a throw into a powerful attack, taking out Frisk. Game. Oh wow, you did a lot better than I thought, Yaba admitted. You even took stock from her. Yeah, you've got some serious talent, but you haven't put in the work. Amai gloated. It's been a while since I've had to put in even that much effort though. Do you want to get a real challenge? Frisk asked. If I use my quirk, I promise you'll get a real good fight. Do it, Amai said excitedly, eagerly accepting the challenge. Snap. Let's begin, Frisk said. The game started once again, but this time it felt entirely different. Amai was on the offense, but Frisk was fighting back. The two going toe-to-toe, evenly matched. Whoa, he, or is it she? Whatever, they're actually winning a bit, Yaba exclaimed. Amai internally panicked for a second. She hadn't expected Frisk to suddenly level up in real life, and as such she was put at a disadvantage that she now had to crawl back from. Wait a second, what is this quirk? You wanted a better opponent, so I granted your wish, Frisk said simply as they focused on the game. Have fun. Wait, so does your quirk grant wishes somehow? G asked, suddenly looking very interested. How does it work? Spill it. Sure, all I have to do is want something, and I can wish it into existence, Frisk explained. Well, it's a bit more complicated than that. Wishes need power, and that power comes from willpower. Not just mine, but anyone else who's wishing for the same thing. The more we want something, the more determined we are, the more wishes I can grant. For this wish, I just used Amai and my determination, and it worked like a charm. I can see that, Amai said, really getting into the challenge, smiling as she started sweating intensely. Oh yeah, now we're talking. G was about to ask more questions about Frisk's quirk when Yaba put her hand over her mouth. Save the nerd crap for after the match, sis. Don't be rude, Yaba told her. G moved her sister's hand away from her mouth. Oh, that's rich coming from you. Oi, what's that supposed to mean? You challenge me to fight. Yaba snarled. No fighting, Inu said, giving them both light bonks on the head. Quiet down, I need to focus, Amai shouted, before continuing to focus on the match. What continued after that was a highly skilled, tense match, with both players performing difficult maneuvers and skillful plays, until they were both down to their last stock, the game nearing its end but no winner could be discerned. But Frisk had a slight advantage. That sloppiness in the opening part cost me big time. Amai thought to herself, damn it, I might lose. Darn. Well, at least it was a fun mat. Hey, Yami said, coming into the room, with a hound pushing a tray of food. Finish making food. Movie time. Amai's hands tightened around her controller. Never mind. I can't lose here. Suddenly, something in the match changed. Frisk's level of skill seemingly reverted back to how it was pre-wish. Are they going easy on me? Don't like that one bit, but I guess it's better than losing in front of Yami. Amai pouted. Huh, she broke the wish. Frisk thought as they felt their quirk's power vanish. Game. Phew. Amai immediately set down her controller, as a wave of relief washed over her. Had fun? Yami asked as he got up on the couch next to her. Lots, Amai said, giving him a victorious smile. Yami gave her a small smile back and then patted her on the head. Good. Happy. Amai's face exploded into red, and a big love-struck grin covered her face. Oh, that's how she broke the wish. Frisk giggled. Cute. Wait a minute. They're not a couple yet. Snap. Oh, so that's what's going on. Frisk immediately got a grasp on the situation. Normally it's pretty uncool to meddle in someone's relationship, but a tiny push should be fine. Snap. Get a room, you two. Yaba rolled her eyes. Snap. Get a room. Does Amai like me that way? Yami asked himself suddenly, the thought popping into his head. Well, that should do it. Frisk got off the couch and started walking away. Well, that was fun, but I gotta go. See ya. Wait, I still need to ask about your quirk, G said, getting up to follow them. Sure, I'm happy to explain. Frisk gave her a grin. So long as you let me keep looking at that pretty face of yours. Oi, now flirting with my sisters. Yaba growled, glaring at Frisk. So you'd rather I flirt with you? Frisk teased. I wouldn't if I were you, G advised. I don't even want to imagine what her in a relationship would be like. Screw you, Yaba said. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Frisk into her room. "It's fine. Your room is cute, by the way, and matches its owner," Frisk said, giving her a wink. Fuku blushed. "Do you just flirt with everyone?" "Pretty much. It's a habit, and a little bit of a problem at times, but don't worry about that," Frisk assured them. "So what do you want to do?" "Aha." Fuku started sweating. She hadn't thought this far. "Snap. You want to play Legend of Zelda together?" Fuku asked nervously, suddenly getting an idea, much to her relief. "Isn't that a single-player game?" Frisk asked, not expecting that reply. "It is, but I had a friend of mine mod it, so now it has a multiplayer mode," Fuku explained. "Neat, let's play," Frisk said eagerly, picking up a controller as the two started up the game. Something was up here. Izuku was elated to hear about Fuku making a friend outside the house. However, given the circumstances of everything, naturally Izuku would have to look into them. And what he found was strange. Furasukuyum, born in a remote town, so out of the way that even Izuku hadn't heard of it until now, despite working across all of Japan. The town was known to be a haven for people with mutant quirks, given how far away it was from the more anti-mutant parts of Japan. They were adopted by Chutorai and Goriyum 8 years ago when they were only 1 year old. They had a brother Sujin-yum, who unfortunately passed away 5 years ago due to a terrorist, anti-mutant attack on the town, done by the Creature Rejection Clan. And that was pretty much it. The rest was a mystery, as their documents were lacking. Both their quirk and their gender were listed as, and I quote, "Don't worry about it," and other information that should have been there was missing as well, which is how he suspected they avoided getting noticed by DOC for so long. Despite how obviously illegal some of this paperwork was, Frisk and their family likely got away with it due to overall negligence, and maybe so reality-warping courtesy of that quirk of theirs. The power to grant wishes was a formidable ability, and one that Izuku would need to know more about. In fact, he'd need to learn a whole lot more about this situation because, to be quite frank, that entire town was suspicious. Aside from Frisk, there are a lot of documents and data that should have been reported that are just not there or are clearly falsified, to the point where basically no information was getting out of that town anymore. Even the two heroes who stayed in that town, Undying and Red, had stopped communicating with the HPSC outside of extremely infrequent and vague reports that pretty much explained nothing. What's more, there haven't been any reports of anyone going into or leaving that town, apart from Frisk, with many people visiting the area, only to say they never saw any sign of the town. And what made everything more suspicious was that all of this strange activity started happening immediately following the attack by the CRC. Thankfully, he knew where to look to start getting some answers. Naturally, Frisk had provided them with their parents' phone number, and their father, Gori, was the government official in charge of that town. "Beep beep, beep beep, beep beep. Hello," said a male voice over the phone, presumably Gori. "Hello, Mr. Yim? This is Izuku Midoriya." Izuku introduced himself. "Ah, you're that young man in charge of the Midoriya Foundation," Gori said in a friendly voice. "Frisk mentioned something about becoming friends with one of your children. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you." "I feel the same. Although, and I do hope you don't mind, naturally whenever I allow someone into my house, due to all the incidents I've had to deal with, I do a fair bit of research into those people," Izuku explained. "Ah, it appears I have some explaining to do." Gori chuckled nervously. "You don't need to worry too much. I don't have any intention of reporting anything to the authorities, providing there's nothing immoral behind all of this," Izuku explained. "Certainly not. It's just, I'm certain you're aware of the attack that happened in our town a few years ago. It was devastating, to put it lightly." Gori explained that Izuku could really hear the pain in the poor man's voice and felt a stab of guilt for bringing it up. "I didn't want that to happen again, so I figured I'd just let our town fade into complete obscurity. If no one knows about it, they won't attack it. It was the best thing I could think of. The document tampering was in service of that." "I see." Izuku thought about it. All of that made sense. It was a small town, full of people with mutant-type quirks. The government wasn't going to add any protection, and most heroes weren't going to go out of their way to protect such a remote place with so few people. They had to fend for themselves, and the strategy they used, while illegal, was practical. As for hiding Frisk's quirk, well, I simply didn't want the government to get any ideas. I'm sure you understand how predatory they can be. Gory continued. Yes, that's perfectly understandable, although I would like some more details myself. Just between the two of us. Izuku requested. So long as you continue to keep our secret, I'll gladly do so, Gory said. Oh, something's come up. Can we continue this later? Of course, have a nice day, Mr. Yum, Izuku said as the call ended. Well, I suppose that is a perfectly reasonable explanation. Still, I might need to have a few people monitor the town, just for safety purposes. Snap. But first I need to focus on Mirai Orphanage. Izuku thought, deciding to focus on the town at a different time. Everything's in place. Now it's time to round them all up. I am going to be very busy soon. Yonda was reading something on her bed, while Asper was sitting next to her, watching her. Are you interested in what I'm reading? Yonda asked, taking a moment to put down her book and pet her cat, much to her delight. Just some old religious stories. They really highlight just how terrible humanity was and still is. And you want to know what the scariest part is? Some of these stories were written to trick and manipulate people into either behaving the same things they did or something they could gain from. And some people wrote these because they actually believed that God or whomever supported sexism and other horrible crimes. And I can't tell the difference just by reading it. Meow. Esper purred. And that's why I love you so much. Yonda said, smiling as she cuddled the cat. When Father first got you, I was hesitant because I didn't fully understand the beauty of having an animal companion. No complex thoughts, no need for distrust. You're a simple creature, not one I can fully understand, but one I can understand enough. You're not overly complicated like a human. You are not capable of that. But yet you do love me, don't you? Meow. Esper pushed her head against Yonda's forehead, rubbing it lovingly. Love. What is love really? Do you love me just because I feed you and give you shelter? I guess that's kind of the same thing that happens with us and Father. So is that love truly that shallow? And what is the difference between the love between a master and pet and the love between parent and child? Yonda wondered. Well, I suppose that's a silly question. I love my father not just because he feeds and houses me, but because of the person that he is. The kind that strives to make the world better for everyone around him, even at great personal cost. I admire him. I wish I could truly be him, like a real daughter would. Whereas I love you because you're quiet. I can't hear anything from your head, but you're still definitely alive. You make me feel comfortable. It also helps that you're soft and cute. Esper purred smugly at that. But why does Father love me? Sure, I make sure to try and give back, but that brings its own problems. To the point where my father is wary of me to a degree. But he still loves me. Not like love. Yonda frowned. And I don't really understand why. And that frustrates me. I admire my father for the endless love he has for everyone. For being able to take in this many children and still think of them, and treat them like they were flesh and blood. And yet it feels like I will never understand it. I wonder if it's because of my quirk? Esper started licking her hair, and Yonda booped her nose, making her stop. Would Father really be able to love people the same way that he does, if he had my abilities? I think he would, but it would just make him tired. That seems to be what happens whenever he's confronted by the awfulness of humanity. He just looks so saddened and tired. But he never stops. Never think of stopping, even if it kills him. Which is why I'm so thankful for Achiko. Yonda admitted. Sure, we can help him relax, but never fully. He thinks of us as his children, and to him, that means we're his duty. Achiko as his girlfriend is also his duty, but not to the same extent. Probably because she's more his equal. I wish I could be the same. His equal, I mean. But I'm not sure if that's possible for me. Meow. Esper put their paw on Yonda's cheek. Perhaps it's that shadow that's holding me back. Yonda sighed, as she recalled her session with Ren. You know, I always knew I was a bit of toxic person, but never did I think I was that infuriating to listen to. I really hope Dr. Akira's quirk works, because that part of me needs to die. Actually saying that is probably part of the problem, huh? Meow. Esper purred, in a way that seemed to agree with her. That's what I thought. Yonda nodded. Dear me, I'm such a handful. Then again, so are you. So you can't judge. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX vaulted upward, having woken up from a horrible nightmare. PSSSSSSSSSSS. Her fear gas spilled out as she failed to keep it under control. Fuku's panic had also woken up Yuna, who upon seeing her owner's tearful face, immediately went over to check on her. Thankfully, before Fuku went to bed, she always made sure to equip Yuna with a sleeping gas mask, to make sure that no nightmares would cause Fuku's quirk control to go awry. Like now, Yuna climbed onto Fuku's bed, and Fuku quickly brought her into a hug. "I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay." Fuku looked around the room, reminding herself that she was in the Midoriya house, and not at her old house. That was in the past. After a few minutes, she managed to calm herself down. Fuku let out a sigh of relief, as she finally managed to relax. Thank you, Yuna." Fuku lay there silently for a little while, focusing on her breathing. "Why did this happen, Yuna?" Fuku asked sadly, as she started to pet her bear. "I was doing so well. I went outside. I made friends. I haven't had a panic attack in months. I'm so happy here, and then these stupid nightmares come in. Is this my father? Did he curse me with his dying breath? Is he haunting me?" Yuna couldn't speak on account of the mask, and simply chose to nuzzle Fuku's face affectionately. Affectionately being the key word, the sheer amount of concern and care put into those nuzzles did wonders for the poor girl. Right. That's silly. They're just nightmares." Fuku reassured herself. After that, she sat there in silence for a while, the two just taking in the ambience of the house at night. "I don't feel like sleeping anymore." Fuku groaned as she looked over to the clock. It was 3 a.m. Ugh, hi. That's only 4 hours of sleep. And I have to wake up and do more artwork in the morning, and I have a full day planned. And if I don't go to sleep now, I'm going to be tired all day, and nope. Too late. I'm already too awake. Darn it. She looked down at Yuna. "You want something to eat?" Yuna nodded rapidly. Fuku sighed. "All right, let's go get you some milk and cookies." "Breaking news," said a female news anchor. Recently, Midoriya Izuku announced he had created a brand new super orphanage, known as Mirai Orphanage. Set on an island off Japan's shores, this orphanage would be the size of a large city, capable of housing millions. People, of course, were confused as to why Midoriya would create such a large structure and sink so much money and resources into it. After all, how could he possibly fill such a large orphanage? Said a male news anchor. Well, that was revealed in shocking fashion. Over the last week, the Midoriya Foundation quickly acquired orphanages and orphans from all around the world, taking these orphans over to the island to become part of his orphanage, giving Midoriya a monopoly on orphans. "I think that's a whole new sentence," the female reporter said. Governments around the world were stunned by this sudden development, and many of them quickly took action to try and stop Midoriya from continuing his orphan gathering. However, these efforts were seemingly fruitless, as Midoriya continued his worldwide semi-adoption, using even legally questionable means to keep going. The male reporter said, Midoriya has now taken an estimated 92 million orphans. Likely more, as Midoriya Foundation agents collected orphans on the street as well, meaning there are still millions of children that were taken that weren't included in that count. Naturally, something this massive has sparked several reactions from governments worldwide, most notably China, who has threatened to declare war on Japan if the children are not returned. The newswoman said, some other nations have made the same or similar threats. Most nations, such as the United States, have opted to open negotiations with the Midoriya Foundation and the Japanese government, while some other governments have opted to ignore the situation altogether. The Japanese government has stated they have no intention to interfere with the Midoriya Foundation's activities. The newsman said, the Midoriya Izuku gave a statement, saying that he disliked the oftentimes horrible ways orphans were treated worldwide, and thus decided to take matters into his own hands, and that he has no intention of returning any of the orphans. In response to claims of war, Midoriya claimed that these are nothing but empty threats, and that the chance of any government choosing to go to war with Japan at this time is nearly zero. The newswoman said. He also said that should a war actually break out, it would end very quickly. The last thing Midoriya said was that he intends to give more information at a later date. The newsman explained, However, Mirai Orphanage already has a website, and while most of its features are to be released at a later date, it does provide information about the various facilities and places on the island, as well as showing several photos. The reaction of the public worldwide seems to be conflicted. While many people seem to think that Midoriya is right in wanting better conditions for orphans and think he will provide for them, they also seem off-put by the shocking way Midoriya went about this. The newswoman said. However, Midoriya's more outspoken detractors have been enraged by this, many of them forming violent mobs and attacking Midoriya Foundation facilities, as well as people working for the Midoriya Foundation and even citizens who support the Midoriya Foundation. The newsman explained. Thankfully, not many people have actually been hurt, and no casualties have come from these attacks, thanks to the work of the Midoriya Foundation Army and the pro-heroes. However, these people are dangerous. Several people have been hospitalized due to attacks from Midoriya Foundation detractors. Remember, if you see any suspicious behavior, keep your distance and report it to the proper authorities. The newswoman said. Speaking of criminal activities, with the Midoriya Foundation Army and the heroes busy dealing with these attacks, plus the aftermath of a recent villain group subjugation, the Sky Pirates were able to raid a Midoriya Foundation facility and steal an unknown amount of materials. Few were harmed, but many fear what these dangerous criminals can do with even more power. Hello, Ms. Prime Minister, Izuku said as he sat back in his office chair, taking a call on his phone. What the actual fuck? The Prime Minister spat. All of the orphans, Midoriya? All of them? You didn't think to tell me before you pulled this shit? I couldn't risk the information leaking out and giving the other countries time to prepare, Izuku explained casually. It already took considerable effort to keep all of this under wraps for long enough for the plan to go through, and it went off without a hitch. Without a hitch. Midoriya, there are nations threatening war. The Prime Minister shouted. You and I both know those threats are empty. They know how powerful I am. They wouldn't risk coming to blows with the Midoriya Foundation unless they absolutely had to. Izuku sighed. And even if they were stupid enough to try and fight us, do you really think any nation in the world is a threat to me right now? You really have gone mad with power. The Prime Minister groaned. What's next? Are you planning to finally just give up the facade and conquer the earth? Just do whatever you want. Not like I can stop you. And with that, she hung up. Well, that went well, Izuku said as he set down his phone. Despite what one might think, things really had gone smoothly, gathering just as many children as they expected, without anything getting in their way, and without leaving any evidence of law-breaking activity. Of course, the fact that Izuku had broken many, laws was obvious, but that didn't matter if no one could prove anything. The other countries weren't any threat either. Literally, all of them could be paid off, and none of them would risk actually trying to pick a fight with him. However, that did add significantly to the ridiculous budget of this project. Honestly, Izuku couldn't remember the last time he looked at a price tag and actually winced. But it would be worth it. For the sake of those poor orphans. The public wouldn't be a problem either. People were wary of this now, but once Mirai Orphanage could be showcased more and people saw just how happy the orphans were, they would quickly forget about this showing of overwhelming power. That was the power of good advertising, and the masses were unlikely to take the side of his serious detractors, not with his men staging attacks and infiltrating their groups, to make them all look like a bunch of maniacs. The only concerning thing was how quiet his enemies were being. He'd heard nothing from the MLA, Stain, or Sin, and they still haven't found the 4-star and 7-star dragons. Izuku could only assume they were gathering strength, which concerned him greatly. But all he could really do at the moment was search for them and develop his own assets. Thankfully, these assets were developing well. Namely, EA. Shredder's space-cutting blades had done wonders in the weapons development, and said development was now being moved to Angel Island, so as not to create holes in reality over the city. That wasn't the only thing they'd get out of those blades. Despite the limited amount of blades they had, they were capable of doing quite a bit, and were both extremely valuable and dangerous. Enough contemplation. I need to get back to work. I want to finish this before 5 o'clock. Izuku thought as he went back to his paperwork. Back in the center of Daika City, the 6 heads of the MLA met once again. All right, Masuda, what's so important you had to call us all together 1 month before our meeting would have been held anyway? Rayon asked, sounding very annoyed. The fact that none of you already figured that out is upsetting. Did you not hear about what's been happening lately? Masuda sighed. You're talking about Midoriya's recent worldwide child napping scheme antics. Correct? No, he said. Ridiculous as it is, there's not much we can do with that, Sun said. Probably get some more recruits, but that's about it. Wrong, Masuda stated, before smirking. My dear comrades, have you ever heard that the enemy of our enemy is our friend? With his latest actions, Midoriya has trampled over the pride of several countries, namely, China. I can imagine they're not particularly happy about a Japanese boy wielding godlike power, doing whatever he likes in their country, Hebe said. Especially when Midoriya's response to their outrage was essentially, shut the hell up, I can do what I want. Although he's not particularly wrong. Unless, I see. You're suggesting we gain the favor of the Chinese government and get resources from them. I'm not suggesting it. I've already made deals with them, Masuda said cockily. What? Sun, Rayon, and Hebe shouted in outrage. You made a decision like that, without consulting us. No, he hissed, doing a good job at not flipping out like the other three, but definitely still very upset to put it lightly. Do you understand how impactful such a deal is? Do not treat me like a child. Of course I do. Masuda scoffed. You're all worried about us becoming their puppets, right? That's why I had to make a deal with them as quickly as possible. Right now their blood is still boiling. They were desperate for any way to strike at Midoriya. And since we're their only real way of doing at this point, is us. If we gave them time to calm down or find other avenues of attacking Midoriya, then this golden opportunity would vanish. Still, it would have been better for you to consult us. No, he restated firmly. Do none of you understand the situation we were in? Masuda sighed, rubbing the bridge of her nose. Until we can create a world run by strength, the current world runs on money, and we lack the funds to pursue our ambitions. Stealing Midoriya's tech will only get us so far when Midoriya is as cautious as he is. And Gupu, how has progress been going on our Nomu project? Thanks to Dr. Garaki's notes, combined with our own research on genetics and quirks, we have been able to create several blueprints for a new form of Nomu, more suited to our cause. However, given our lack of funds, progress has been slower than I'd like. And there you have it, Masuda said cockily. You can start thanking me now. As much as I hate to say it, you have put us in a better position. Hebe sighed, sounding like she was forcing herself to say that. However, I would still like to remind you that you are part of a council. Masuda rolled her eyes. Yes, I am aware. Now then, other than money, I did get something else you might find interesting. She pulled a red vial out of her pocket and grinned. It's a blood sample from over 200 years ago. A blood sample of the first known human to ever have power granted to them by quirks. And I'm not talking about that glowing baby. This is a blood sample of Leiden Ultimate. So then, what did you want to talk about? Yonda asked. She and Yami were currently having tea in her room after Yami invited her to talk. Is Amai in love with me? Yami asked plainly. Yonda sighed. You know I can't just give you an answer to that, right? It'd be a pretty big breach of privacy. Would Amai not want me to know? Yami said, giving her a confused look. Why? Because confessions are special, Yami. Yonda rolled her eyes. Yes, it would just be simpler if I gave you an answer, but if Amai did have feelings for you, I doubt she'd be happy with someone else telling you about it. Also, this has been bugging me for a while. How can you not see if she has feelings for you? You can see love, right? Yami nodded. Yes, but not that simple. All love looks the same, but it is not the same. You don't love Esper the same way you love Dad. I hope you don't love Dad the same way you love Esper. I see. So you can't tell the difference between the different kinds of love. You just see that she feels love towards you, but that love could be as a friend. Yonda surmised. Well then, looking back at how Amai acts around you, do you think she has a crush on you? Probably. Yami answered pretty quickly, when he considered all of Amai's actions around him, namely turning into a blushing, flustered mess, and then comparing it to how Achiko acted around Izuku before they got together, it seemed almost obvious. Almost. In the end, Yami knew that he lacked the experience to truly make that call. All right, second question, why don't you just ask Amai? Yonda asked. For someone like you, I thought you'd just go to her directly. I don't know. Yami admitted. It feels weird. To go up and ask that feels presumptuous? Yonda offered. Yami nodded. This is important. I want to handle this well. Well, something like love is important. Even I know that much, so I guess I understand. Yonda said. And I guess it's time for my last question. How do you feel about Amai? I'll love her. But I'm not sure how. Yami explained. You mean you don't understand if what you feel is romantic love or platonic love? Yonda clarified. Yami nodded. Interesting. Well, imagine yourself and Amai together as a couple. How does it make you feel? Amai asked. Yami took a deep breath and then plunged himself into his mind. He imagined his adult self coming back from hero work at exactly 9 p.m. Why that time specifically? Yonda asked. It was a mid-sized, 2-story house with an attic and basement. No backyard and a very small front yard. Have you had this fantasy before? Yonda asked, getting rather suspicious as to why this was so specific. No, Yami answered, before continuing to imagine. Yami entered the house, taking off his shoes and hanging up his robe, before he walked into the living room, finding his wife playing games in a tracksuit, surrounded by empty bags of chips and empty soda bottles. What a flattering image. Yonda snickered. I'm home. Adult Yami said. Hey honey, welcome back. How was work? Adult Amai asked, not looking away from the screen. Fine, Yami said as he gave Amai a head pat, causing her to shiver in delight. Gonna start dinner. I love you so much. Amai smiled fondly. About an hour later, Yami finished cooking, laying out a massive feast at the dinner table, which the two of them quickly got to demolishing, just tearing into their food like absolute savages together. Afterwards, Amai collapsed into her chair with a satisfied look on her face. Phew, nothing like some good food after a hard day of work. What work does she do exactly? Yonda asked. Pro gamer. Yami answered. So you'd be the one actually making money here, huh? Yonda figured. Yami got up and brought Amai into a princess carry. The woman leaned her head into Yami's chest. He brought them to their room and laid her down on the bed. Cuddles. Amai softly damned, and Yami gladly complied, falling into the bed next to her and wrapping his arms around her. All right, I think that's enough. Now why don't you try thinking about a future in which you two are just friends for comparison? Yonda asked. Okay, Yami agreed. He imagined his adult self coming back from hero work at exactly 9 p.m. This is the same fantasy, Yonda pointed out. Yami entered the house, taking off his shoes and hanging up his robe, before he walked into the living room, finding his wife playing games in a tracksuit, surrounded by empty bags of chips and empty soda bottles. Why would you two still be living together if you're not a couple? Yonda asked. Why can't we? Yami asked. Touché. Yonda knew that there were some friends who chose to live together. It was just uncommon that those friends were of different genders. I'm home, Adult Yami said. Hey Yami, welcome back. How was work? Adult Amai asked, not looking away from the screen. Fine, Yami said as he gave Amai a head pat, causing her to shiver in delight. Gonna start dinner. You're the best. Amai cheered. This is just the same fantasy with some small details changed. Yonda pointed out. Why would it be so different? Yami asked, starting to see the issue here. Yonda realized. About an hour later, Yami finished cooking, laying out a massive feast at the dinner table, which the two of them quickly got to demolishing, just tearing into their food like absolute savages together. Afterwards, Amai collapsed into her chair with a satisfied look on her face. Phew, nothing like some good food after a hard day of work. Yami got up and brought Amai into a princess carry. Yami, do you really think that friends casually go around giving each other princess carries? Why can't they? Yami asked. He brought them to their room and laid her down on the bed. Cuddles. Amai softly damned, and Yami gladly complied, falling into the bed next to her and wrapping his arms around her. You can't honestly think that this is something that friends do. Yonda sighed. Me and Amai have done this a few times. Yami revealed. All right, enough with the fantasies. I see this won't help. Yonda rubbed the sides of her head. The problem here was that Yami didn't really know where the line between friendship and something more should be drawn. Yami didn't hang out with Koda all that much, and they just met Frisk, meaning that Amai was Yami's only real close friend, making things very complicated. What's more, Yami also didn't really care for what other people thought of as norms for relationships, so they couldn't go off that. Honestly, Yonda shouldn't be surprised that this was complicated. Yami was a mind unlike anything else Yonda had encountered, made unique by his upbringing, his quirk, and his intelligence. It didn't help that love was one of the emotions Yonda had the most trouble with. All right, one more thing. How would you feel if Yami got together with someone else? Yonda asked, pulling out her last trump card. If Yami got jealous, then she could say he did have feelings for her. If he didn't care at all, she could say he probably didn't. I'd be sad I wouldn't get to spend as much time with her, but happy that someone is making her happy. Yami answered with a slight hint of sadness. Slam. Yonda slammed her head into the table. Well, that told me nothing. All right, well, I can't really offer any more advice. The only thing I can say is to ask Tokoshi about it. Why him? Yami asked, looking a bit confused at the out-of-nowhere suggestion. Because he is the only person in this place that has any experience with romance. Yonda explained. When it comes to love, sure, Dad and Achiko are together, but to say they're experienced is laughable. And the other bodyguards have zero experience with love. And Sensei, no comment. Anyway, that's all I can offer you. Take it or leave it. Guess I'll do it. Yami said, finishing his tea before getting up. Thank you. As frustrating as this has been, it is nice to talk to someone pure of heart, with a strong intellect. We should do this more. Yonda offered. So long as you're not scheming. Yami said as he left. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Tokoshi chuckled. Yami just stared at him, still waiting for his answer. How to know when you're in love? That's a tricky one. If you've already thought about it this much, and you still can't find an answer, then it's probably best to just wait until you can. Tokoshi advised. Yami sighed, getting frustrated at not finding a proper answer. Don't be impatient. You're still young. A lot of kids your age don't even worry about this until they're teens. Although there are some exceptions. Tokoshi said, patting Yami's head. You've got a lot of time. And with that time, you can go through more experiences. Get more friends. Figure out things that seemed puzzling at first. Maybe right. Yami thought about it. And while he wasn't key to waiting, gaining more experience with this issue did seem like the best way to handle it. But am I? You're worried about the little lady's feelings. What a gentleman you are. Tokoshi praised with a grin. But don't worry about that too much. It's best to understand your own feelings before accepting someone else's. And I'm sure she'll understand that. Once you figure out how you feel, you can figure out where to go from there. It may not always be easy, but such things never are. I see, Yami said. Internally, he wasn't satisfied with this at all. But he did say it wouldn't be easy. Eri entered her room, needing to get something before she could continue her day. But after she got a bit past the door, said door suddenly slammed behind her, revealing Himiko was behind it. Eri jumped up in fear and looked behind her, but quickly calmed down a bit when she saw it was just Himiko. Himiko, please don't scare me like that. Sorry. I just wanted to ask you a question, Himiko said. To most people, her tone would sound pretty casual. However, Eri was not like most people. She'd grown up around Yakuza, and she could hear the underlying edge in her voice, and see that there was something behind that cheerful expression she was putting on. It unnerved her. A lot. What question? Eri asked, backing away in fear. Himiko pulled out a folded paper and slowly unfolded it, revealing it to a picture of Himiko Toga, her teenage version. Eri's eyes widened with fear. Where did you get that? I found it on the internet, Himiko answered, not dropping her cheerful tone. It was super duper hard to find. But after a lot of searching, I found something interesting. I found this super cute girl who looks a lot like me. And she's also named Himiko Toga, like I was. But they said this girl was a murderer, and that she mysteriously disappeared, and that there was this girl that got adopted by the Midoriya Foundation, who just so happens to look a lot like her. Would you know about that, Eri? Eri gulped. No. Come on, Eri, I'm not mad at you, Himiko said honestly, and Eri, to the best of her ability, couldn't feel any dishonesty in that statement. Himiko seemed to drop the fake cheerfulness, and rather than being angry, she seemed to be, at most, a bit annoyed, but mostly she was curious. I just want to know what's going on. Come on. We're sisters, right? And sisters don't keep secrets from each other, right? Eri hesitated, and tears started to appear in the corner of her eyes. Dad told me not to tell you. He made me promise. Himiko frowned. Thought so. Oh well, I already got my answer from your cute little expressions. Guess I'll just ask Daddy about it then. Then Himiko approached Eri, who looked at her fearfully, still seeming like she was about to cry, and she placed her hand on Eri's head and petted it. There, Eri. I told you I'm not mad, so you don't need to cry. Why, you're really not mad? Eri asked, sounding equal parts relieved and confused. Not really. I just want to learn what happened. Himiko explained honestly. And I can never be mad at my cute little sister. Are you mad at Dad? Eri asked. Himiko paused and thought about it. Probably not. But we'll see. Izuku was toiling away at his paperwork as fast as he could. He had a lot to do today, and he needed to get this work done for Mirai Orphanage before he could get on to any of it. Hi, Himiko said, suddenly appearing in front of Izuku's desk, with no one having noticed her come in. Mistress Himiko, Master Midoriya has told you numerous times to knock when you come into a room. Sue, who was at Izuku's side, reminded her. It's fine. Izuku sighed. Himiko had picked up a bit of a bad habit of testing her ninja skills whenever she could, ever since she started getting taught by Giza, which would be cute if she wasn't scarily good at it. Himiko, I'm sorry, but I'm busy right now. I don't have time to play. That's okay. I just wanted to ask you about something. Himiko said, backing up a bit. Oh, okay. What do you need? Izuku said. While he was busy, if one of the kids needed help, that took priority. I just want to know what you're hiding from me. Himiko asked cheerfully. Izuku's stomach dropped, and a bit of nervous sweat went down the side of his face. What do you mean? Himiko pulled out the folded paper and unfolded it, revealing the picture of her teenage self. Where did you get that? Izuku asked strictly. Crap. The internet. I printed it out. Himiko explained. You see, I went to the mall, and while we were there, this lady seemed to know who I was, and she was really upset. Mama Achiko seemed to know what she was upset about, but she wouldn't tell me. So I had to do my own research. It was super boring and took super long. But eventually I found this one place, where some people were talking about me. Or this older me, I guess. They said that she was a murderer and that the Midoriya Foundation turned her into a child and took her. They even showed a picture of me next to this older me. Izuku held back the urge to slam his head into his desk. Of course, she'd find out. Unlike Tenko and Toya, hiding the fact that Himiko had once been a villain was near impossible. For one, Tamura Shigaraki and Dabi's identities were not known to the public. They used fake names, and they had drastically different appearances to Tenko Shimura and Toya Todoroki respectively. This was not the case for Himiko Toga. Not only was Himiko's identity known, but she didn't even have a villain name anyway. And her teenage self looked almost exactly like her younger self. Just older. If anyone who knew of Himiko Toga saw Himiko Midoriya, they'd make the connection immediately. So the only thing Izuku could do was try to wipe any proof of Himiko Toga's existence away. Thankfully, Himiko Toga was not well known. Sure was a murderer, but there were thousands of murderers in Japan. And Himiko Toga had neither killed all that many people, nor did she kill anyone important. So it was easy to get most people to just forget she existed after Izuku wiped every trace of her existence online and on paper. Note the word, most people. The thing that made hiding Himiko's identity near impossible was the people who refused to forget. The people who lost loved ones to Himiko Toga's madness. Izuku knew as soon as those people saw Himiko Midoriya, they'd know it was just Himiko Toga aged down. And since Eri's quirk was public knowledge, it didn't take much to put two and two together. Then those people would go to the internet and start posting about Himiko. Of course, Izuku had his information team immediately get rid of anything involving Himiko, and he made sure that none of these ever got any media coverage. But his people couldn't get everything down instantly, nor could they permanently shut up the people putting up these posts and articles and the like. I mean, he could, but not in any way that wouldn't violate his morals. And it looked like Himiko had managed to find one of those articles before his men could take it down. Susu, feel like telling the truth now? Himiko asked teasingly. Well, at least she doesn't seem upset. Izuku rubbed the bridge of his nose. Fine, I guess I can't hide it from you any longer. Yes, you were once a villain. You grew up under your parents' abusive household and a world that just didn't understand you. You forced yourself to act normal, to try and be like everyone else for the sake of fitting in, and so your parents didn't hurt you. But having to repress yourself for so long eventually drove you insane. And you became bloodthirsty. in a murderous way. Eventually, you teamed up with the League of Villains and attacked the kids. In a panic, Eri used her quirk on you, and you ended up like this. Himiko took a second to really take that in. He couldn't tell what she was thinking. Her expression was pretty blank until it morphed into that of confusion, as well as a bit of fear. Why? Why what? Izuku asked. Why did you adopt me? Himiko asked, her voice going a bit quiet, as she looked down at the ground. I tried to hurt you, and everyone so. Why don't you just send me to jail? Izuku sighed and gave her a sad look. I didn't think that was fair. Sure you, or I guess, your older self made bad decisions. But a lot of that was because of the horrible experience you went through. It really wasn't fair. I know life isn't fair, and like I said, your older self still made those decisions herself and should suffer the consequences of her actions. But then I saw you, the you as you are now, and I wondered what would happen if you didn't have to go through all that terrible stuff. If someone gave the care and attention you deserved. And I couldn't bring myself to turn you back. Himiko just stared at him. Her eyes were so full of emotion that he couldn't tell what she was really feeling. Awe, fear, confusion, love, and more. For a while, there was silence, as Izuku waited for Himiko to respond. However, while he waited, a fear ate away at him. A doubt he'd had in his mind for so long, that now was coming to the forefront. Eventually, Izuku spoke up. Himiko, do you want to turn back into Dash? No, Himiko said, cutting him off. Her tone was cold, firm, and almost harsh. Not with any anger, but with fear. And yet despite that, Izuku felt himself breathe a sigh of relief. You really care about me that much? Himiko asked, her voice filled with a mix of desperation and disbelief. When I first saw you, I saw someone in need of help. Now, you're my own daughter, both by chance and now by choice. And I care for you, just as much I care for every other one of my children, regardless of what you used to be. Izuku told her wholeheartedly, and I will do everything in my power to make sure that this time, you grow up with everything you'll ever need. Then can I have a hug? Himiko asked, holding out her arms. Izuku smiled and quickly got up, got around his desk, and scooped her up into a hug. Whenever you'd like. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX overwhelming. First of all, she was a murderer. Or was she? Was that an older, different version of her? Still her? Izuku seemed to imply that he thought of them as different people, so she'd do the same. But that still meant that a version of her that she could grow into turned into a crazy murderer. And that crazy murderer hurt a lot of people. She recalled that woman at the mall. Himiko had been used to being looked at with contempt. But that wasn't just contempt in that woman's eyes. It was hatred. Hatred, sadness, and loss. All of it was directed at her. Because she'd taken away someone they loved. She suddenly felt like she'd gotten punched in the stomach. Himiko had never really thought much about death. Everything dies eventually, so she didn't really feel too bad when she heard someone had died. If anything, people tended to look cuter when they were dead. But seeing just how much pain that woman was in, it made her imagine what would happen if she lost someone she loved. Like her new family. That made it feel like she'd gotten punched in the heart. What was future her thinking? Sure, she absolutely hated being with her parents. And she didn't like school all that much either. But she never wanted to kill anyone. She loved blood, but she didn't need to kill people to get that. Himiko just didn't understand how it got to that point. Actually, thinking about it harder, she might have a clue. Up until just now, she never really thought much of death. Until she imagined losing someone she loved. But without the Midoriya Foundation, did she really ever have someone she loved? Did her older self just never find a single person who she'd miss when they were gone? Or did she just never really think about it like that? That was a terrifying and horribly sad thought. Honestly, she didn't understand why Izuku would think she ever wanted to turn back. Why would she ever want to go back to being an insane psycho-murderer with a miserable life? She much preferred her current life. With rich, loving parents, lots of adorable siblings, and free access to blood whenever she wanted. Really, she'd rather not have known about her older villain self. She'd even asked Izuku if Kyoku could remove her memories of finding out about it. But then Izuku pointed out that she'd just inevitably find out about it again. Curse her incredible genius. Speaking of identities, while she was never told outright, she had pretty much figured out that Tenko and Toya had also been villains, and that Izuku had Tenko's quirk removed. She figured it was probably for the best. After all, she would rather have not figured it out, so why ruin it for them? And she trusted that Izuku was doing what was best for them. The man was simply a saint. Just as Izuku would make sure she got everything she could want, Himiko would make sure she didn't go crazy this time around. She'd been blessed a chance for a better life, and there was no way she was wasting it. Himiko slapped her cheeks and got up. All right, enough thinking about the past/future. I'm going to do something nice for everyone. Time to finally see if I can make a cake with blood instead of milk. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming, Kyoka said as she looked at those who had gathered in front of her. Fuhai, Fu, Seikyo, and Eri, the four of them, and Kyoku, had gathered in a small room, with the four sitting at a table, and Mu, hiding under it. All right, what's this about, Kyoku? Fu asked. Well, I was thinking that it would be good for our house if we made some clubs, where similar people could meet up and do whatever they want to do, I guess, Kyoku explained. This is the Immortals Club, a club for everyone who can't be killed by time. I immortal? Fuhai questioned, his eyes widened. We're all immortal? I guess that makes sense, Seikyo said, looking around at all those present. I'm immortal? Mu asked from under the table. Your body is built to take an entire dimension trying to erase it from existence. You're kinda immune to any mundane forms of decay. Fu explained. All right, Mu said. Eri didn't say anything, just looking around with a sad expression. Her quirk really was a burden a lot of the time. Right now, Eri was immune to the effect of her quirk, unless she was injured. However, this would stop once she reached a certain age. Due to the way that aging worked, basically slowly decaying until your body couldn't function, once Eri got to the age where that decay started, her quirk would consider that an injury, and thus returning her back to a certain age before that decay happened. Much like Mu, she would essentially stay locked to a certain age forever, unless she just decided to never use her quirk for decades, which was unlikely. So yeah, Eri was immortal, and that meant she would eventually have to go with one of two options. The first being, watching everyone who wasn't immortal she loved eventually die of, hopefully, old age. Or the second option, rewinding them as well, and letting them watch as the people they loved, who weren't related to them, died of old age. Because Eri couldn't make everyone immortal. Well, she probably could via Midoriya Foundation science. But that would lead to throwing the world into utter chaos, and eventually its destruction. She had to limit the amount of people she could de-age, meaning that there were going to be a lot of painful losses around her. I think it's very important that you all get along, since eventually, everyone else will be dead, Kyoka said. Everyone will be dead. Fuhai looked like he was about to have a mental breakdown, with Eri also flinching at that statement. Fu sighed. You couldn't have said in a less depressing way? They'll have to get used to it anyway, Kyoka said. It's for your own good. You're probably not wrong, but you could be nicer about it. Mu pointed out. Fair. Anyway, that's all from me. Have fun, everyone, Kyoka said as she took her leave. The four of them stared at each other, unsure of what exactly to say. So, why do you hate being looked at so much, Mu? Seikyo asked, figuring now was a good time to ask. Oh, well, it just feels kinda itchy. Mu explained. Itchy? Eri repeated, confused by the answer. Like, whenever someone stares at me, it itches. Mu clarified. I don't know why, it just does. Is it quirk-related? Fu asked. No, the doctors say it's not part of my quirk. It's just a weirdum quirk. No pun intended. Mu said. Huh, Fu said. From that, many clubs formed, such as the Fashion Club, which was pretty much already a thing unofficially, as fashion-minded people gathered in Shiroku's room. But that room was getting cramped, both from the amount of stuff in it and the amount of people there. So Kyoku granted them their own club room. It looks like you two are getting the hang of it, Shiroku said as she oversaw Kano and Kuki doing some sewing for separate parts of an outfit. Kuki, try not to rush it. You'll ruin the whole thing, or dash. Ow. Kuki hissed as he stabbed his finger with the needle. He quickly set down the cloth he was working on so his blood didn't get on any of it. That will happen. Shiroku sighed as she had her spider minions bring over a first aid kit. That's making me thirsty. Kano sighed, setting down her project and moving her head needle down towards a cup of blood on the table and sucking it up. All right, that should take care of it. Shiruku said as she applied a bandage to Kuki's finger. Thanks, Kuki said, promptly picking back up the cloth and getting back to sewing. Determined, aren't you? Shiruku asked, happy to see such enthusiasm. I want to make my own clothes, Kuki explained, smirking as he imagined something. People will look at my cool clothes, and then I'll tell them that I made them, and I'll be even more cool. Sorry I have to go, Fuku said as she came up to Shiru. I have an Omni Games meeting, and then I have to meet with the cooking club after that. Sorry, but could you take over watching Alice while she's making her hat? Of course, you sound a lot more busy after all, Shiruka said. Do you think you can still make it to the art club later? We really want to do something as a group, and we need all our members. I'll try, but hi. Fuku groaned as she hung her head in exhaustion. Why am I in so many clubs? I'm in the fashion club, the cooking club, the game-making club, the writers club, and the artist club. Ag. And if there's ever an archery club, then I'm definitely going to be in that too. Is Kyoka trying to kill me? Well, if you didn't want to be in any of those clubs, you could have just said no. Shiruka pointed out. Also, you don't have to show up to every club meeting. These are just fun. If it's making you stressed, then you can just tell people that. I know. Fuku muttered. I don't want to disappoint them. Hey, anyway, I gotta go. See you. Wait. Shiruku called after her, but Fuku had already run out. The spider girl sighed. What are we going to do with that girl? XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX It's fine. Let's just get this started, Ken said. All right, now that Foundation Feud's been out for almost a month, let's fix up some complaints people have. Amai, you got the list. Yup, Amai said, as she pulled out her phone. So people are complaining about Shiruku's damage, so I'm thinking we lower her HP to compensate. Some people will still complain, but at that point, it's a skill issue. Couldn't we just lower her damage? Fu asked. Absolutely not. Damage and range are what Shiruku is all about. If we lower her damage, then Shiruku becomes unviable. It'd also make any matches with her really, really slow and frustrating for both players. All right, then we lower her HP. Ken decided. Next, people are complaining about how oppressive Sheena is. They say it feels like you make one mistake and you can't play the game anymore. Amai explained. So I think we should lower the status effect timer by a bit. Sounds good. Next, Ken said. That's about it. Amai said, putting down her phone. There are some other complaints, but they're from scrubs, so they don't matter. Fu sighed. Amai, are you only taking the complaints of pro gamers? You know casual gamer complaints matter too. Casual gamers think every character that isn't theirs is overpowered. Amai scoffed. If we kept trying to make everyone happy, then we'd never make anyone happy and the game would be a mess that changes every day. That's probably a good point, Fu admitted. Still, I'm going to look at the full list of complaints myself. Fine. Amai rolled her eyes. Okay, so with that done, what's our progress on the monster game? Ken asked. Made a bunch of designs, Yami said as he pulled out a bunch of pictures of various monsters that he drew, and that were touched up by Fuku. We've also got a bit of a plot, Fuku added. So, I watched a video about monsters being representations of things, and I thought that was cool, so all the monsters are supposed to represent something. The bad guys represent all the things that humanity fears, and the good guys represent things humanity likes. Okay. That sounds like it could be something neat, Ken said, seeing the potential. So what's the game going to be like? We're thinking of something like the Dynasty Warriors series, Fuku said. If you're having giant monsters, then you need to have as much destruction as possible. Oh, cool. I wanted to make one of those. Ken exclaimed, getting more excited. All right, let's focus on this. Wait, I don't really play those kinds of games too much, Amai said, suddenly getting a bit nervous. Up until this point, the games they had been making, Amai had some experience with playing. Music games looked cool, and she had tried one out once. But she found that it got stale after a while, and she never had any motivation to go back. It'll be fine. Man, I can't wait to make a game like that with our sweet graphics, Ken said, ignoring her concerns completely. Just study up as much as you can, I guess. Fu shrugged, knowing that there was little else he could say. On my side, well, those games are pretty simple, so maybe I could do it. But I don't want the game to be boring, so I need to make it harder than normal. Maybe the Dark Souls of Dynasty Warriors. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX room, sitting across from the girl who was sitting at her desk. He also wasn't sure why Kyoka had a desk in her room or how she got it in there. "So you're probably wondering why I brought you here," Kyoka said, adjusting her glasses as to look as smart as possible. "Well, you see, I noticed that you haven't joined any clubs." Odo typed into his phone for text-to-speech. "Not interested." "Well, that won't do. What do you do besides train?" Kyoko asked. "Eat and sleep," Odo answered via text-to-speech. Kyoka sighed. "Again, that won't do. Here at the Midoriya Foundation, we need all of the children under our care to have some kind of hobby or something. You need a life." "That's what I'm trying to say. I have a life," Odo replied, looking a bit offended. "Spending every day training isn't a life. You don't even have any real friends." Kyoko exclaimed. "Look, Daddy wants you to be happy. And do you feel happy living like this?" Odo thought about it for a second. Did his life make him happy? Well, he didn't feel any particular way about his life. He wasn't really happy about him. His old trainer told him every second of his life should have a purpose. He should always be improving if he wasn't doing anything more important, making himself as useful as possible. But then again, that guy's whole job was to turn him into a tool meant to kill. The guy didn't have any interest in improving Odo's life in any way. However, training was useful. It made him stronger, more well-prepared for the dangerous world around them. Odo was one of the weakest people in the house. The only thing he had going for him was a powerful attack, and even then people like Kiba and Seikyo could easily withstand it, assuming they didn't just attack him before he could scream, with their sheer, overwhelming speed. And people like Himiko and Mu could take him out without even knowing. "I need to keep training," Odo replied. His siblings were weak. Ko had been meant to be molded into an assassin, a future seductress who would isolate her targets, use her quirk to make them defenseless, and then take them out. But Ko had never cooperated with these lessons, regardless of how she was punished, seeming to revel in her instructor's frustration. And Kuki was never really meant to fight in the first place, even before his quirk removal. Back then, his quirk would cause uncontrollable destruction to everything around him, to the point where their instructors had considered using him as a disposable weapon, like some kind of living bomb. And now he was completely defenseless, a small quirkless child that could be killed by a mid-sized dog. As the oldest and the strongest of them, he had to defend them. Kyoku pinched the bridge of her nose. "All right, well, if you're going to be stubborn." She then pulled out her phone and started texting something. Then she waited for a moment, before getting a response, then continuing to text. Odo raised an eyebrow, wondering what exactly she was planning. After a couple minutes, Kyoka set down her phone and turned her attention back to Odo. "All right, so here is what me and Daddy decided. You're going to be a temporary member of a new club every week, until you find one that you would like to join. And if you don't go along with this, then you won't be allowed to use any of the training equipment." Odo's brow twitched in annoyance as he scowled at Kyoku. He had a bad feeling something like this would happen. Kyoka seemed like the kind of person to play dirty. "Fine," Odo responded, the text-to-speech not at all conveying his annoyance, but his expression was doing a pretty good job of picking up the slack. "Thank you for your cooperation," Kyoka said, looking all too proud of herself, beaming despite the murderous glare she was being given. "If it makes you feel better, Oki and Jin will probably be joining you for this." "Who?" Odo asked. "Oh right, you probably haven't met them." "Oh well, I guess this is a good way for you to make more friends," Kyoka said optimistically. "Now run along, we're done for now. I'll talk to you later." Odo hated smug people. They were so annoying. Kay was happily studying away in the library when she felt a hand come down on her shoulder. She looked up, and her eyes sparkled. Dad immediately jumped onto him, wrapping her arms around him. "Hey Kay, how are your studies going? Learning anything interesting?" Izuku asked as he quickly hugged Kay back, before petting the snakes in her hair. "Yeah, super interesting." Kay let go and picked up the book she was reading so she could show it to Izuku. "Did you know that baby rabbits are called kittens?" "Is that so?" Izuku sat down, ready to lend an ear to Kay's spew of animal tidbits. "Yeah, and also rabbits can't vomit. Isn't that weird?" Kay asked, before continuing. "And also dash. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Izuku said as he, Yonda, and Yami were in the game room, playing around in Tekken 20. Well, I like winning and feeling like I'm better than other people, so I was looking for ways to do that without doing my usual thing. Yonda explained as she played against Izuku. So Amai introduced me to video games. KO. The game announcer announced as Yonda's character went down. Well, it looks like you still have a ways to go. Izuku chuckled as he started giving Yonda head pats. Yonda pouted but still leaned into her father's touch nonetheless. My turn, Yami said, taking the controller from Yonda. You've been practicing your gaming skills a lot too. Trying to get as good as Amai? Izuku asked as he selected his character. Yami nodded. Well, best of luck to you on that. Izuku encouraged him. It's not going to be easy. I know. Gonna do it anyway. Yami said with an edge of determination. Partners have to be equals. Partners, huh? Izuku looked over at Yonda, who looked utterly exasperated. Wonder what that's about. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX flowers in the greenhouse, alongside Eri and Otoko. Eri nodded, as she took care of some weeds. We worked really hard. I'm glad all the flowers turned out so pretty. Otoko nodded, while he watered flowers next to Izuku. Grrrr. Everyone looked at Eri, who was blushing after her stomach rumbled loudly, for everyone to hear. Well, I guess that's my cue to make lunch, Izuku said as he got up and looked over at the apple tree. And since you two worked so hard, why don't we use some of the fruits of your labor? Kay, at that moment, felt overwhelming joy, for reasons that would remain unknown to her. XXXXXXXXXXXXXX. You know a benefit of being rich that I don't hear people talk about. You can create whatever meal you feel like making, Izuku said, as he, Fuku, Hinata, and Inu were working in the kitchen. Yeah, it feels like I can make anything. And every time I learn how to make something new, it just feels really good. Fuku admitted as she chopped up potatoes. It makes you feel more useful. I get that. Hinata sympathized while she cleaned the chicken. Thank you for teaching me all this, sir. No need to thank me. I'm just happy to have you girls help me out, Izuku said while he cut up the cleaned chicken. I'm always happy to help, big brother, Inu told him happily while she dealt with the apples. I'm happy we can eat so many different kinds of food too. I didn't know just how much food could change your mood until now. Food is one of the most important things in life. Aside from being something you need to survive, it can majorly affect pretty much every part of your life. Izuku explained. Your mood, your health. Eating something bad can ruin your entire day. And having a good meal to look forward to can make a bad day easier to handle. Remember to keep that in mind whenever you're planning a meal. Yes, sir. All the girls said. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Izuku and aka watched a hero fight on the news in Izuku's room while eating their recently cooked lunch. She's everywhere online. People won't stop talking about her. I don't get it. You'll understand when you're older, Izuku told her. One might think he said this because of the specific appeal MT Lady abused. But that was only one reason. The other was because the reason Alice kept hearing about MT Lady may not be because of pure popularity, but because she was a pretty controversial figure. Izuku knew, better than most, that MT Lady was a hero. Through and through. She did her job as well as she could. She was more than willing to put her life on the line and give everything she had to protect the people and take down whoever would wish them harm. However, she was also very unsubtle about being money-hungry and a bit of an attention seeker. She gave off a very bad first impression, and many people thought of her as a fake hero. Hence controversy. Yeah, take that. AKA cheered as she watched MT Lady step on a villain. Again. Ahaha. It's nice to watch these together, right? Izuku asked as he took another bite of his food. Alice nodded. Mommy didn't always have time to watch these with me. So thanks, Mr. Midoriya. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX the fashion club's clubroom, wearing a matching set of peculiar clothes. A pair of black and red suits, with long flowing capes and big shoulder pads. Not as dapper as Yukiba, Izuka told her, having well gotten over the embarrassment of wearing such weird outfits by now. Besides, it's not like this was anywhere near as embarrassing as wearing women's clothes. in a girl's body. The shoulder pads are a bit big. I'll have to make some adjustments, Shiruku said as she looked over them. I think it's fine, big shoulders for a big person, Kiba said, posing proudly. Okay then, want to try walking through a door? Shiruku asked cockily. Kiba looked over at the door, and then at her shoulder pads. Touché. Whoa! Netsu cried out as he flew through the air as fast as he could. Whoa! 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 Lu was right behind him, energy blasting out of his shoes as he flew, struggling to keep himself stable in midair. Careful, Lu, Izuku warned, flying behind them. He'd asked Shina to give him access to the rappel quirk once again, so he could properly follow these two during their flight training. Faiwa. Lu accidentally raised his foot too much, causing him to start rocketing down towards the ground. Lu. Izuku repelled himself down towards Lu, barely getting under him in time, and catching him before he hit the ground. Phew. Thanks, Mr. Midoriya, Lu said, blushing with embarrassment. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Ji and Kyoku were in the library, the older kid mentoring the younger one. I get it. I get it, Kyoka said, before letting out a long yawn. Nara looked at her. I think we should end it here today. You look tired. What? No, I'm fine. Kyoka perked up and pouted. Well, we can't have that. Kyoka looked up and saw Izuku entering. Daddy. Izuku promptly went in and scooped her up into his arms. All right, time for a nap. I don't need a nap. Kyoku cried as she tried to worm her way out of Izuku's arm, to no avail. Well, I do, and I want you to join me. Izuku told her. Fine. Kyoka said as she continued to pout. Izuku, I'm back. Achiko said as she came into Izuku's office, still wearing her UA uniform. But she was met with silence. Izuku. Achiko quickly realized that his office was empty. He's not here. Maybe he's playing with the kids. Better check his room, just in case. She walked over to the door and opened it up, entering his room and finding an utterly adorable sight. Izuku, asleep on his bed, with Kyoku sleeping at his side. Himiko snuggled up behind him, knees at his leg, and Sanson wrapped around them. Achiko couldn't help but smile, quickly pulling out her phone and snapping a few pics. Sanson woke up, perking up her head and looking at Achiko. Join. Sure. I'm pretty tired. Achiko said as she set down her bag and went to join them. Okay, so hear me out. What if the reason Blue Blur can move so fast is because instead of super speed, his quirk controls kinetic energy? G theorized. Like he causally absorbs any kinetic energy and then releases it when he runs. Interesting. And you think it only works when he's in motion? Izuku asked. But even then, he can still get hit, even when he's running. And that's what I was having trouble figuring out. But then I wondered, maybe the problem is size. G wondered. Maybe his kinetic absorption only works when what he's hitting is small, like tiny pieces of rubble or air particles. But if it's something big like a fist, it won't work. Or maybe it has to do with how heavy and solid it is. Maybe. That would make some sense. Would that mean that Blue Blur could take bullets so long as he's moving? Izuku mused. G's eyes lit up. Oh, that would be amazing to see. Although I doubt we could convince him to agree to an experiment like that. Unless everyone has a price right. Sis, we're not going to ask Blue Blur to get shot, Izuku told her with a sigh. Splash. Ko always thought she'd enjoy swimming. She never really got the opportunity to do so when she was with her handlers. Sure, they taught her how to swim, but they taught her in a dingy facility, with water that smelled like it had more chemicals in it than it did water. And her teachers were harsh and made sure the whole thing was as unenjoyable as possible. Then, once she learned how to swim, they never let her swim again. That life seemed like a far cry from what she had now. Now she could swim whenever she wanted to, so long as she got permission and had an adult watching over her. So now Ko was swimming in a beautiful lake, filled with fishes and crystal clear water that felt good against her skin. And holding her breath wasn't an issue either. After all, she'd been trained her whole life on how to keep her mouth shut. Izuku swam beside her, giving her a look that asked, "Are you having fun?" Ko quickly nodded. She was right. She did like swimming. and she was glad they didn't use the pool. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Jin, Odo, and Yami worked in the kitchen. You didn't give us much of a choice, Jin muttered as he peeled carrots. If I have to do something, it might as well be making yummy food. Learning how to cook is useful, Odo thought. Consoling himself, he stirred several pots. I really need to hire that cook, Izuku thought. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX in bed soon after dinner. However, seeing as Izuku wanted to spend more time with the kids today, he decided to make a bit of an exception. As such, he, Achiko, Oki, Fu, Ko, Seikyo, and Kai were all out looking up at the stars. By now, Izuku had gotten his scientists to get rid of that pesky light pollution problem, at least around here, so the night sky was especially beautiful. I actually really like the stars, Oki admitted as he lay on a blanket next to Fu. Oh, Fu asked, urging him to go on. They're so pretty, and I don't have to worry about eating them, Oki explained. Oh yeah, I guess that makes sense, Fu said. Achiko had set up a telescope and was showing Ko and Seikyo what she could. And if you look over there, you can see Saturn, Achiko told them. Astounding. It's incredible that something so simple can show me something so far away. Seikyo marveled. Ko rapidly tapped on Seikyo's shoulder, silently urging her to let her see. Meanwhile, Izuku laid down next to Kai. As they looked up, Dad, could I fly to the stars one day? Kai asked. Well, not by yourself. Space is beautiful, but it's also pretty much the deadliest place you'll ever see. Izuku explained. That's why astronauts need all that special equipment and those special suits. So I can't do it, even though my body is super tough? Kai asked sadly. Izuku gave him a sad smile and a reassuring pet. No, but maybe one day I can take you up there. Really? Thanks, Dad. Kai purred, rubbing his head against Izuku affectionately. Oh boy, what did I just promise? Izuku thought. He had a feeling his scientist wouldn't appreciate that. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX He'd had a rather draining day after all, but in a good way. However, despite it being bedtime, that didn't mean his job was done. He walked past Fuhai's room and heard something that instantly derailed his plans. Crying. Immediately, Izuku entered the room and found Fuhai obviously having a nightmare, crying and flailing around in his sleep. "Gee, go away." Fuhai cried in his sleep. "I don't want to die. Please. Fuhai? Fuhai? Wake up." Izuku shook him awake. "Ah!" Fuhai screamed as he woke, jolting upright as he flailed his arms about. He was sweaty and hyperventilating. The poor boy was having a full-blown panic attack. "Easy, easy. You're not dying. You're all right. Grab my hand," Izuku told him, rubbing the circles into the boy's back. Fuhai grabbed his hand and squeezed, using the sensation of Izuku's kind touch to bring himself back to reality. "Deep breath, son. Just go steady," Izuku encouraged him. Eventually, Fuhai managed to get his breathing back under control and the attack subsided. Although the boy was still pretty shaken. I died." Fuhai stuttered. "I died again." "No, you didn't. It was just a nightmare," Izuku assured him in a gentle voice. "It didn't happen. Maybe I should have had that memory erased," Izuku thought. No, that wouldn't help much. He already doesn't remember much of it. It's not how he died, but that he died at all. I guess I shouldn't expect all kids to handle that as well as Eri. After a couple minutes, Fuhai fully came back to reality. Where is Fu? He's eating a late-night snack. Do you need him? Izuku asked. Fuhai thought about it. On the one hand, he could really use the extra comfort Fu provided. On the other hand, he didn't want Fu to not get enough food and go all zombie mode. And no, thank you. I wet myself. I see. Izuku held in a sigh and gave Fuhai a kind smile. Well, that's all right. Let's get you cleaned up. XXXXXXXXXXXX. After changing the sheets, getting Fuhai cleaned up, and then getting him into a pair of new pajamas, Izuku put him back in bed. Thanks, D-Dad. Fuhai stuttered, looking shyly away from Izuku. You don't have to call me that if you don't want to, Izuku assured him. I don't mind, it's just weird. Fuhai muttered. Well, if you need time to get used to it. Then take as much time as you need. Izuku said. Now then, I doubt you can just go back to sleep right now, right? Fuhai nodded rapidly. There was no way he could go back to sleep right now. All right, then why don't we do something else, Izuku said. The door opened, and Sue stepped in, tossing Izuku a book before taking her leave. How did she know you wanted a book? Fuhai asked, very confused by the weirdly convenient timing of all that. Because she is very good at her job, Izuku said. Well, in truth, he'd shot her a text while he was cleaning him up and coordinated this whole thing. But that was less fun, and keeping up the mystery would help the boy's mood. All right, would you mind me reading you a story? Izuku asked. Please. Fuhai said. Okay. So Izuku was about to begin when Fuhai interrupted. See, can I hold your hand too? Fuhai asked. Izuku smiled. Of course, son. This is the last part, at least until more chapters are out. I hope you enjoyed. Remember to support the writer. Like, sub, and share the video for more awesome stories. See you in the next video.